Oh, Helen Hatzis.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I mean, despite what's going on, we're adapting really well so far.
That's good. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on the Fact Up podcast. I wanted to kind of get you on because not only are you super well accomplished, you're super positive, but you're also a super real person.
Uh,
And so
yeah,
I don't honestly, I was thinking about it earlier today. I don't remember when we met.
I remember,
You do?
of course.
Oh, enlighten me.
Okay, so it was near Ontario Place, and I don't remember which destination marketing organization it was for, but we were outside, and I looked over, and I'm like, do I know him? Have I seen him at an event before? And then anyway, we just started talking, and I asked you if you were Greek, and that was
Okay.
it. We were friends from the
That's
"Are you Greek?" point. That was it. That's it.
Really? Okay. Well, yeah, I don't remember, but I don't even remember the outside part, much less the marketing part.
All right, I gotta go. No.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Okay, that's
A-
hilarious.
Anyway, thank you so much, and you always kind of spread those positive vibes. So
Oh, thank
I
you.
wanted to kind of have you on and spread some positivity. Usually we'd be talking about what your latest trip is and where you're going.
It was in my
Conver-
kitchen, but
right? It's the kitchen.
yeah,
It's got its own airport code. I've
yeah,
seen that meme going around. But
that's
the conversation today is going to be slightly different, dictating kind of the times of that we live in.
mhm.
But my first question for you, I guess, is you've helped athletes with special needs. You created an organization called ALOHA Toronto. It's an annual day camp for people living with autism. You're a Governor General Award recipient for your charitable and not-for-profit work over the past 2 decades. You were also recognized as one of
One of
Canada's nicest persons for Canada's 150th birthday in
what were
2017.
they thinking?
My question was, how does one even make that list?
I have no idea. I just got a honestly, I mean, I don't know because I got to figure that out. But I just got a call, and they said, and actually, I was at an IPW travel event, and they were like, by the way, you've been nominated, so you're in the of the top 10, and then they do pick one person who is the nicest person in Canada, and so I don't even know how to it's so surprising, a little surreal.
Right?
I'm honored. I mean, it's come on, when anybody says something nice about you, it's nice. I'm just not very good at receiving compliments. I like giving them, but I'm not so good at getting them.
Yeah, I feel
It's
you with
awkward.
that. I
Yeah,
feel you with that. And
yeah,
I can imagine how you were feeling when I was listing off the different things that you've done and
yeah. Oh,
part
yeah,
of. And we were chatting recently, and I think you said it was your dad who said by the time you're born to the time you pass away, you got to fill that time up with experiences.
yeah.
Um,
That's nice that you remember that. Yeah,
Absolutely, because I mean, at the other, at the end of the day, it's what you do, but it's what you do for other people that kind of bring you the most happiness. And then when praise is shunned upon you, you have a personality where you'd rather kind of put that focus on other people.
yeah. It just feels weird. I don't know. My mom always said, like, just say thank you, and some of my good friends say that, but it's like, oh, okay, thank you. Like,
Right,
it
right,
it
right,
just, I don't know.
right.
I don't know if I'll ever learn to not. It's not that I don't appreciate it. Of course, I appreciate when someone says something nice. Who doesn't want to hear something nice? I'm just not good at receiving it, and I don't know how to thank people. And that's why
Right.
my mom was like, say thank you, but it just doesn't seem like enough.
What is your ideal answer to a compliment instead of thank you? All right, what's next? What else can we do? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's move
Yeah.
on.
No, and you know what I do? It's funny because it gets pointed out all the time. I'll try to find something negative. Oh, well, it wasn't that good. I could have done better.
Right.
And they're like, just shut up and say thank you. I don't know, whatever. I'll figure it out one day. Maybe not.
Well, here's something else to throw your way. You're also an established travel writer. Oh, by the way, also that, and we'll get into that. But you're also the chief community officer for Genius 100,
Yeah.
an organization that kind of inspires the creation, expansion of new knowledge and solutions. What does that mean exactly?
You know what? It's to bring together like brilliant people who are at the top of their game to help solve issues faster. And we can't solve every single issue. You know, we're limited right now to a group of 100, and some people are not working on, some of the world issues that we would like to tackle. But ideally, we want to utilize this amazing group of people, kind of bring them together, have that synergy, and a lot of these people have never met each other before. So that's the whole sort of model behind it, is to bring really incredible people together to help find a solution faster than if they're working in a silo, so to speak.
And what types of people are they? From all sorts of kind of walks of life? Are they from a particular industry, a particular sphere? Who, give us some examples as to who exactly.
Sure, they're all over the map. Like you have, like there's one guy named Jose Miguel Sokoloff, and if you look at his TED Talk, it's absolutely brilliant. Here's this guy who's at the top of his game in marketing. He's a global CEO for a marketing firm, and he's based in London, but he's originally from Colombia. So he grew up in Colombia, and all he's ever known is the guerrilla warfare, or the FARC, and that's all he's ever known. Like this atrocity that's going on there. And the government was at their wits' end. And what did he do? Well, they came to him and they said, listen, we need your help. And so we thought, okay, he's very talented, and so is his team, at a way of, presenting messaging in a certain way. I mean, he's a marketeer, right? So he used marketing for good, and he found a way to bring the FARC, or the guerrilla, to their knees. And people started leaving the jungle, because that's where they were. They were all like, deep in the jungle. And how did they get to them? They did things like put like Christmas lights, at the entrance of the jungle, because they would go in and out to get provisions. They would take like globes, these clear globes with messaging in them, and shoot them down the river. And they would slowly collect them and read them, and it just reminded them that, oh my God, I had a family before I became part of this other community. Like I have a family back home that loves me. And that's all it took. It was just that messaging reaching out to their hearts, hitting them emotionally. And his TED Talk, I really recommend it, because I can only give you a very high level sort of overview, but it's incredible. So it's people like that who, he can help other visionaries, like a Jan Creamer, who has dedicated her lives to rescuing, animals. Like Tiger King is a big TV show right now. Like, oh my God, I cannot believe this kind of programming is getting so much attention. And at the end of this, like, yeah, it's interesting because, you're looking at these wacky, it's like the worst soap opera ever, but it's not fiction. It's actually real. Mm-hmm. But they don't talk about, oh, look at these poor animals, these animals who don't have a voice, to say something other than the last title for like maybe 10 seconds on the screen. There are more animals in captivity in the US than there are in the wild. Okay, what's the call to action? What next? Mm-hmm. And then you have like one of our visionaries, Jan Creamer, who I just mentioned, who actually goes into, like more specifically now, Latin American countries. She changes the laws. She's from England, and she's going to another country to change their laws, to stop roadside zoos, to stop these roadside circuses, and to, rescue the animals, take them away from these abusive people, because any animal that is in captivity like that is abused. Okay, you cannot make an animal do tricks like that unless you beat the shit, and I apologize for saying that, beat the crap out of them. And so she'll rescue them, and then she just sent about like 18 lions and tigers to this beautiful reserve, which is like a retirement home, because these animals cannot be put back in the wild because they've been brought up in captivity. And she gives them the ability to live a beautiful life free from danger. And so, these are the kind of people. So like a Jose could help her with her messaging so that it impacts people. So when we see shows like this Tiger King, people will think, oh my God, you know what? That isn't right. I shouldn't go and pose with a baby tiger because, this poor thing is going to have a horrible life.
Does it take sensationalism to bring attention to things like this?
It seems to work, I mean, look at the stuff that people in general are watching, like the Kardashians. Oh my gosh. All that materialism, like, now that we're all living in isolation, we're really learning quickly that we do not need a lot to be happy. As long as we have a roof over our head, we have access to Wi-Fi, which is part of our life now, that keeps us connected to people, Zoom and all that wonderful stuff. And we have food. Like what more do you need? And you need a sense of purpose, but you don't need all of that stuff that like the Kardashians, with all the plastic surgery and all those clothes and all that material stuff.
Now, you played an instrumental role in the development of the world's first 3D book. It was released in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
For those that would love to Google that, I really recommend you Google first 3D book, Breakfast Television, and you'll see an amazing 5-minute clip of Helen on City TV in Toronto talking about the book. For those who don't know the contents of the book, what's the book all about, and how can it help with people's state of mind today?
Sure. So I was approached a number of years ago by my good friend Ilan Divan, who was working on a project to commemorate the centennial of Albert Einstein's theory of relativity, so the centennial was in 2016. And he worked at an organization called the Canadian Friends of the Hebrew University. Okay, why does that matter? Well, Einstein, Sigmund Freud, and 2 other notable individuals, but I always mention those 2 because they're well-known names, started a university called the Hebrew University in Israel before Israel was even a state.
Mm-hmm.
Like, go figure.
Right.
No limits to this guy's imagination.
Right.
And so, as the Canadian Friends, they do a lot to support the university, and they wanted to do something, unique, because Einstein is one of the biggest brands. So anyway, flash forward, they were thinking of doing a bust. That didn't work out. And then Ron Arad, who is this incredible, artist, designer, furniture designer, architect, you name it, the guy is brilliant, was approached to do something, and he doesn't like to be told what to do, but not in a bad way. He's just like, no, I got a better idea. He's actually a really cool, laid back kind of guy. And he's like, I got a better idea. So it was his idea to do a 3D book. And then my job so they hired me to find individuals to not only be a part of, the G100, which is now what it's called, but at that time it was called the Einstein Legacy Project, but was to find 100 people across 10 categories. So like arts, leadership, innovation, science, technology, environment, philanthropy, and humanities. And I'm missing a couple, sorry, but to gather them, and they were vetted by a huge international committee. And then I worked with them, not after, asking them to be a part of this. What we wanted, or what we needed from them, was their 250-word vision statement of the future. So their vision of the future. Mm-hmm. So this book, so really you have to watch. There's also another video. It's called The Making of, like Genius 100, The Making of the 3D Book. If you just mm-hmm. Google that. Mm-hmm. And it really shows you like Ron designing it, how it looks coming out of the printer. It's like an archaeological revelation. Mm-hmm. It literally goes in as a file, comes out as a full 3D book. There's no separate binding. It all comes out in one piece. Like, it's insane. Mm-hmm. The technology, it's absolutely brilliant. So brilliant that we printed a prototype on the International Space Station.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's included in that video. So that was my role, was to, work with these amazing individuals who've made an impact, not only on humanity, but all inhabitants of Earth, and to share their vision so that maybe for, future generations can look at this and use that as inspiration, because these people are truly, in their own right, are truly inspirational.
The segment that I was mentioning on City TV, you guys were actually wearing gloves to handle the book.
Yeah.
You mentioned the video of the making of the book. It actually is Albert Einstein's kind of profile, and it's almost like an optical illusion. It's an awesome segment on City TV.
Thank you. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Does anything stand out from the vision statements of the 250 words? Does any one particular person's vision statement kind of stand out to you?
Yeah. You know what? They're all so interesting. There's one that is like one line, and then there's one, Ridley Scott, director Sir Ridley Scott, which is like the longest one. So his is more in the middle to accommodate that length. But he, for someone like him who is, it's not so much exactly what he said, but the tone of it. Like, people in film, like they look at someone like Ridley now in his 80s as like an absolute visionary in the world of film. He has changed the way people make film. I mean, he's a pioneer, but he doesn't take himself so seriously. And I think, like what I gathered from his vision statement was, everything is there. It's just how you interpret things. And he just happened to be lucky to notice something and interpret it in a certain way. So am I a visionary? Maybe, but you know what? I'm just curious and open-minded, and he just made it accessible for anybody that wants to achieve something in life, but they feel intimidated because they don't think they're good enough, because they compare themselves to like these visionaries. He really brought it down to a level of like, if I can do it, you can do it. And that really impressed me.
And you mentioned the word curious.
Yeah.
Which leads to my next point. You're also the Chief Exploration Officer of Trip Jaunt.
That's a good spin on CEO, isn't it?
You like that? You like that? I like that too.
Yeah.
Now, your site features destination guides, travel pieces,
Yeah.
the 4 pillars that you mentioned on the site that Trip Jaunt achieves with every piece.
Yeah.
Eat, play, chill, stay.
Yeah, because that's what you do, right?
That's what you do. My question for you is, these days, what does eat, play, chill, stay look like for you?
Okay, so that's a good question. So it's so hard to be creative when you can only go shopping once a week, because I'm really abiding by the social distancing, physical distancing protocol. So just trying to be creative. And I have a 15-year-old daughter who is particular. She has a particular palate. So that's a challenge every day.
Right.
3 meals. Like I could just eat leftovers. So so that is whatever. I don't want to forget. Let's not go there.
Right. Right.
So play. Like in January, I decided maybe it's like a New Year's resolution. I don't know. I just decided, fresh start of the year, I'm going to learn guitar. So I've been doing that every day. And that's honestly one of the best things I've ever done for myself. It's awesome. Eat, play, chill. I like watching documentaries, and that's what I do at the end of the day, like just before I go to bed. And stay from my room to the couch, whatever.
You went from one travel meme to another.
Yeah. Totally, yeah.
It's really easy to get down these days, and you can go down rabbit holes of news information and get lost in the negativity.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that, and I'm not about that, and this podcast is nothing with that. So my next question for you is, what inspires you these days? Where do you find inspiration during times that aren't as optimistic, kind of generally? How do you find that? What inspires you, and how do you find that inspiration these days?
You know what? Because I feel pretty positive in general. So I think I just look at things through a different lens. So, when I see, even though they shouldn't be outside, I'm seeing more people than not jogging. And I work from home, so I know who the regulars are, and I'm just seeing like a bunch of people, trying to improve their life. Like even when I'm talking to friends online, I gather everybody every Saturday. We do like a master class or something creative every Saturdays. And I just hear about, like, we do a roll call and everybody just shares what they've been doing. And I notice, and especially with my really close friends, they've adapted, people who are so set in their ways, so like North American, like that Western driven business person, have learned to just kind of take it down a notch or two. And I find that, when you see people change, to me, that's inspiring, because you can't change a person. They can only do it themselves. So it's a simple thing, but I mean, I really noticed it. I still, like, every time we get together, I notice things like that.
You mentioned picking up the guitar and doing something that I assume you've always wanted to do, but haven't had enough time. And now you've kind of made it a resolution since January to do it. A lot of people are reinventing themselves. For those who have the courage to kind of reinvent themselves, look at themselves in the mirror and change something about themselves, as you mentioned. A lot of people potentially who have been working these 9-to-5 jobs and are miserable are looking at all these people who have been traveling and saying, well, I can do that too. I can do some viral video or write a viral article, but I can't take that step. So what do you say to people who have been sitting on the fence for such a long time because they've been busy working or taking care of the family, paying bills, life things, but now they have a little bit more potential opportunity to take that step and follow those travel dreams, be it a writer, be it a videographer, be it a photographer? What's your advice for people to take that first step?
You know what? I always say, okay, Nike's got the best tagline. You just do it. And Richard Saul Wurman, who's one of our visionaries, he's the guy who started TED. He said, look, I'm not really good at anything in particular. He said it more eloquently than that, but I'm just giving you sort of like the Coles Notes version or Crib Notes. But he said the reason why things have worked out for, like, speaking in his voice, the things that, why things have worked out for me in life is because I have been so curious. And if I can't find something online to satisfy my curiosity, I go and do it. And then but it's true, like anything that any of us want to do, if we're really hungry about it or really curious, we just make it happen. You just find the time. And you just have to, like, even with guitar, who would have thought? I had a guitar for 10 years, Jim. 10 years. This is a new one, but I had one for 10 years. I just sat in my house. I had all the time in the world. I just wasn't ready for it. But if somebody's ready for it and they want to do it, you'll make the time. Just do it. One step. What's it? I'm the worst at expressions. One foot in front of the other.
That's it. And get in front of your keyboard or typewriter or notepad and just write down a word.
Yeah.
But speaking of travel, you've traveled around the world. You're traveling, for the foreseeable future. I guess, everybody has a break now. But what does the travel experience look like post COVID-19?
I think people because people are hopefully have been saving money and not just like binge buying and stuff. But I could see a lot of people traveling just because it's that need, that cabin fever. They need to get out, even if it's just a road trip in their car. But what I'm hoping is, people should explore 100%. The best education is going out and seeing something through your own lens, with your own two eyes. What I'm worried about is that, that people won't, I'm always worried about people not respecting the places that they visit. And I don't mean they're vandalizing it or whatever, but just, leaving such a huge carbon footprint, and going to places like the Sea World and visiting like animals in captivity and going to these terrible places. I just, like, for me, go visit the world. But if you could just be a conscious, moral human being and not, go and see these things, because they won't exist. They only exist because we pay to go and see these things. So if people could just not, that would be great. I hate telling people what to do, but this is, like, for me, it's so important because I see the brutality through, like, I learned so much through the visionaries. Like, this is stuff like I can't unsee now. And I'm so sensitive. It's the stuff that wakes me up in the middle of the night, and I just, like, we can all make a difference. And I just hope when people travel, they travel with like I said, with a conscious.
Responsible travel, informative travel, I guess mature travel.
Yeah.
Right? Where you're not, clotheslining people with maybe your selfie stick, but you're actually going there to experience something, taste something, breathe something.
You don't need to swim with the dolphins. Like,
right. Right. Last question.
Yeah.
What lessons have your travels and your line of work taught you over the years, and how have you applied it over time?
Oh, these are like, that's a good question.
It's a loaded question. And in all fairness, it is a loaded question, but I'll give you an example. So for me, it's always been about the experience and never about the selfie.
Yeah.
And it's about understanding that if a chef, a cook, a line cook, the idea of celebrating the healthcare workers is not new for me personally.
Oh, I know.
The waiter, the bus boy, the bus girl, whoever, it's all part of a team of people who are trying to make an experience the best it can be, right? So for me, if, for example, I'll just point out a restaurant. If a chef is making something, it's not just a dish, it's a family recipe that's been handed down for generations, and it's soul on a plate. So I guess from my point of view, my travels have taught me to appreciate the experience of everything more, right? And because you've also traveled extensively, far more extensively than I have, what experiences kind of, what lessons have you learned from your travels that you maybe didn't appreciate even 5 years ago, even last year?
Yeah, I always learn something, for me, again, it's like, I go in with like a open arms, open heart. And I want to learn everything. Like, I even try to learn like phrases because I want to engage. Like, I love culture. I love languages. I love people. And you know what? Yes, we're all humans, but we are different. We do things differently. We celebrate, you know, whatever cultural, you know, whether it be religious or traditions. I mean, we're different in that way. And I love those differences because that's what makes the world so interesting. And so for me, my takeaway is that I just learn something new every time. I try to learn new things. I don't want to go as Helen and look, I'm not trying to go find myself or anything like that. I just want to go open-minded, and I want to come back, like you were saying, with new experiences, new appreciations, and new knowledge, because I love to share stories with people. And if I could gather like really cool stories that I've you know, I'm just trying to think, there's so many going through my head. Like when I was in Greece for the first time, I mean, my family is Greek. I'm first generation Canadian. And when did I go to Greece? The first time was 2 years ago. 2 years ago. And I went with my daughter, and oh my God, it was like, I don't know. I don't know how to explain that, but there was something so, so special. Like it's like you know, when you feel a part of something and you can't, you know, and that's what it felt like. It felt like home, even though I wasn't even in the area of where my parents were from, but just being amongst, you know, hearing all these Greek speakers, it was that level of, I don't know, it's just beautiful.
I call that a tangible intangibility.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, but
you feel it, but you can't talk about it.
Yeah, I have a lot of those experiences where it's just like you have to see it for yourself. And I think that's why I like to do like travel writing. And on our blog, like we do not write about a place we haven't been to. And that's why there's a lot of empty spots, because people will say, well, you don't have a travel blog on this or a destination guide on that. It's because we haven't been there yet. And we're not going to BS it, because that's so inauthentic, and that's not fair to you, the reader. But if we can just stay on this travel bit just for a second, I wish everybody would travel, because I think people would be more kind to each other, because they would understand each other a little bit more. You know, not everybody that comes here has to, you know, has to assimilate. I love that people still maintain a certain dress that they wear that makes them comfortable, you know, or, you know, they create restaurants because it reminds them of home. And then we get to experience that, you know, and we're not from there. So to have that, I think people should understand that we're all different. Yes, we're human, but we're different, and different is okay. It's pretty cool.
It is amazing. I lied. I have one more question.
Oh God. Oh, my brain.
Where do you feel your soul lives?
Where does it live?
Where have you been where you feel, wow, I can't speak, I feel completely zen? This is where my innards live here. Have you felt that somewhere before?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I've been back there 13 times. It's Israel. And I've been trying to figure that out forever. And then I did this random Google search of my last name, because I remember my aunts telling me on my dad's side, my dad's sister saying, oh, your great grandfather was a Haji. I'm like, okay, what is that? You know, and I never thought about it. I was just like, okay, you know, because they would tell all these crazy stories, you know, about the king of Greece having lunch with them. Like, just, I'm like, who are these people? And I thought they're pulling my leg, but apparently they were all true. But the thing that so I Googled my last name, and Haji is one that is a person that takes, sorry, I can't even speak English, takes a pilgrim or makes a pilgrimage to either Mecca or Jerusalem.
Right.
And my great grandfather was bestowed the name Haji because he made the pilgrimage to both places.
Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Wow. You found that all through Google?
Google's amazing.
Wow. Yeah.
You should try it out.
I will try it out.
Yeah.
I will try it out. That's fascinating. That's amazing.
Yeah. So Hatzis is like Canadianized, but it's our last name is Haji, but before that it was Georges.
Okay.
Isn't that crazy?
That's amazing.
So I don't know. There's something bigger than all of us, and I'm not embarrassed to say this. I'm a spiritual person, but not a religious person. But when I hear things like this, and just like, is it happenstance? Is it coincidence that I happen to love this one place so much. I don't know what it is. I feel so alive when I'm there.
Helen Haji,
Yeah.
Helen Hatzis, thank you so much for being a guest on the Fact Up podcast. I really do appreciate your
Thank
time.
you.
I love talking to you, man, because it it's a reflection of how we travel.
Yeah.
It's meaningful, it's purposeful, it's informative, and it's inspirational. And so the reason I wanted you to be a guest is because we need that desperately. And if I can reach out to my network of people who I know and love to be able to spread that positivity,
Yeah.
that's my way of writing one word on a blog post.
That's amazing, Jim. Thanks for
Um,
having me. Like this is really cool. And I just having this conversation with you is so nice.
and to put a face to conversations that we can't have in person, for me, that is as good as traveling right now.
Yeah.
And so thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
I wish you the best in health, and take care of your family. And we will meet at another marketing event and have a drink and a coffee and some more inspirational conversation.
I want to take your tour, by the way.
Oh, please do.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, let's do that.
Please do. I would be grateful to host you.
All right. Take great care. And
Thank you.
again, this was really nice.
Awesome. Great to chat with you, and we'll chat soon again in person.
Okay. Bye.
Ciao.